And welcome everybody once again to the PCS Summer Split. It's the first time I've gotten to say it all year. I'm so excited to be here as we are getting ready to close out our week one. Already been quite tumultuous, quite exciting. But hey everybody, I am Pyrotechnics and I am joined on this broadcast by the one and only, the legendary Clement Chu. All right, but before we get underway, Clement, I do want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsor. They, of course, are CTBC Bank. They're always by our side, and they are once again for the Summer Split. And I also want to take the time to thank Riot Games, Carry Live, and Garena for making this broadcast possible. So now that's all out of the way. Clement, how the heck are you, man?
I've been doing incredibly fine. I'm super pumped up to be here once again in week one of the PCS, and I've got some good news for you guys. So far in our first 2 days of games, there have been no upsets if you just take the spring regular season standings, but I think things are about to change today, and later as we look into today's matchup, I will tell you my picks for the upsets that are about to happen.
Ooh, I cannot wait. You just dropping that right on us and like teasing it, but I know we're not going to have to wait too long to take a look at the games we have on the docket for today. We've definitely got some surprising matchups, some interesting stuff, but let's talk a little bit about what happened yesterday, because I know there were a few things you wanted to shout out from what we've seen, particularly from some of our newer players.
Yeah, I felt like we had some great looks at tremendous individual performances. I think the most eye-catching one was definitely YSMK from yesterday, coming up huge against ICU. You know, ICU himself definitely no slouch. We saw a lot of fighters from him, but he got smacked in lane. 2 solo kills early on in the Jax versus Gwen matchup, really setting the stage for Frank to take over that game. And we also saw some great stuff elsewhere as well as we take a look at yesterday's results. Taipei J Team was a really fun game because we saw Little V go back into his element. There was 2 instances earlier on where he and the support were able to 2v3 the enemy team, and we got an 11 kill, no death game coming in from Little V.
Yeah, not to mention a no-death game from Enzo, too. You did call him out there. I'm loving the Kalista-Renata combo that's showing up in pretty much every region. When used right, it really kills it, and those two know how to play it. Let's take a look at our standings for the last couple of days. There's a nice little even split there, but no surprises. There's only been 2 days of games. We got plenty more to go. Frank Esports, though, at the top of the table. They have definitely been playing much more together. They're also joining, of course, the likes of Make Beyond Gaming, PSG Talent, and Taipei J Team up there. And then CTBC Flying Oyster, they've had only 1 win and 1 loss. Of course, they did have to go up against PSG, and Impunity is joining them there in the 1-1 column.
Yeah, I think the only big surprises here is that Deep Cross Gaming, our previous 4th place team, hasn't found a win just yet. And otherwise on the table, I still think this is going to be a very strong split for PSG Talent. Yes, they have changed around their Korean imports in the mid and jungle, but they're still looking incredibly sharp. And I still want to give Gory that shout out yesterday. His Azir in team fights was absolutely disgusting. Getting multiple 3-man Shurima shuffles across the board on that Drake basically sealed the deal.
Yeah, dude, popping off absolutely. Certainly looks great. And of course, a player that's, you know, has some experience in a Chinese-speaking roster as well. Was an FPX starter. I know Hysterics was talking a lot about it when we saw him. Then, you know, we'll see if they continue to do well. In our matches today, we'll start things off. You talked about Impunity, Clement. Well, they're going up against Deep Cross Gaming, who are still in the hunt for their first win of the split. After that, Jewish Team takes on MFT. J-Team will take on Sem9. PSG will face off against old rivals Megabank Beyond Gaming, and will close the day out with CFO, our runners-up from spring, up against the red-hot Frank Esports.
And this is where I drop my truth bombs. My predictions for today:
Let's hear it.
Impunity is going to upset Deep Cross Gaming. I feel like Impunity, with their revamped roster, actually has a little bit better in terms of direction compared to DCG. And on the other hand, I'm going to predict Frank Esports over CFO. It's not going to be a good day for the J-Team universe. I think there are usurpers on the way.
Oh boy, yeah, this could very well be the start of a spicy split if your predictions coming true. I don't know. Well, you've heard from Clement, everybody. Maybe you want to get your channel points in now. I think this could be some interesting ones. So we're front-loading it with a potential Impunity win. Now, tell me, as we're going to start getting into our matchup between these 2 teams, tell me why you think Impunity is going to be so strong comparatively to Deep Cross.
Well, we have to talk about the Impunity revamp first. So they basically shuffled their entire roster. ICU is now helming in the top lane. They have a full Taiwanese squad essentially, so they're all playing in the same building. There's a lot more synergy, and I feel like just looking at their comps, it's pretty clear what they're doing. They're trying to play a 4-1 style of composition. They have a fighter in your top lane, and then you have late game scaling and wave clear in the other lane. So very clear direction. You know where they're trying to go. For DCG, though, I feel like the changes to fit into 12.11 come a little bit harder because we talked about this patch. It does go a little bit slower, and I feel like DCG need to still find their way as we take a look at Impunity's revamped squad.
Yeah, you talked about it. They have changed over entirely. Biggest roster swap up as ICU in the top side, former Hurricane Gaming member, and in theory, a very strong player despite yesterday's results. Alex coming in the jungle role. Apex, of course, a name some of you longtime LMS fans will remember. And then LZ and Nature is going to be starting today over Winnie. They have split time so far and split Nautilus, or should I say Nautilai? I'm not sure what the plural is.
I was going to go with Nautilus for now, but Nature for me was a very good performer on the debut there. Again, LZ and Nature, they don't have much competitive experience. Actually, they just don't have competitive experience, so we're not really sure what to expect of these guys, but so far, so good. I think they've shown great stuff in the laning phase, and I think that's another one leg up against DCG is this is a team that isn't really afraid to go in and engage. They actually have pretty decent initiators in both Alex and Nature to start things off. And for DCG, that really hasn't been the case versus J-Team. I think DCG is still kind of a diamond in the rough. I'm not really sure where they're going to go with this roster. They had some really cutesy stuff in the spring split where it was all about roaming towards Criscata's lane, but I don't really see that this split, and I'm yet to be odd just yet.
Yeah, I think for Deep Cross, you know, it may be a little while before we really ring the alarm bells, but I think they have to not be happy with how things have started out 0-2. This is a roster that hasn't changed. They were very much considered a contender early on, especially with the fact that they were able to knock off J-Team proper early. If I believe it was one of the opening games of the split.
Yep. And
we need to see a bit more from them. I still stand by my statement in spring that Criscata is probably one of the most exciting rookies that we had in a while, but we need to see more from the team overall, and I do worry about Nesty's champion pool. I think nowadays it's a little hard to get away with the Enchanter mid. So far, he's kind of tried a Silas game. He's tried a Swain game. I don't know. Where do you think he goes from here, Clement?
Oof, that's it's always really difficult to predict with Nesty because this man just plays absolutely everything. Like we've seen Seraphine, Karma from him, all that different stuff.
You could do Seraphine mid. That's a possibility.
True. But overall, I would say that the most important thing is for DCG to kind of commit to a style of composition, and I would like to see them go in the direction of Criscata Hypercarry. I want to see a front-to-back teamfight composition, very clear late-game scaling, which I think fits this patch, and just try to stick with that. I don't think DCG needs to go too cute with what they want to play. They just need to commit to a style.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're into picks bans. Let's see how it goes. Impunity 1-1 on the blue side here. We can take away the GP and the Lucian. Deep Cross Gaming, they ban the Zeri. Restock standard on that, as well as the Senna. LZ, of course, we've seen him on the Callista game, and on the Aphelios, that's where they found their win. Galio banned away from Nesty. That does make a lot of sense. Some global pressure can come up and make some plays. Lucian, of course, already showed that earlier in the week. And the first pick, Viego. Oh, boy. What split is it, Clement? I feel like it's 2021 summer.
I do like the Viego takeaway. As we talked about, Impunity is much more about just playing towards their top lane, so I don't think they need to commit to Callista, which would be the other option here. Instead, they're just going for this stronger jungler now that Wukong is off the table. So it's a very clear indication for me. I think the top lane 2v2 is still the most important thing for Impunity to get right.
Of course, on the bottom side, that's where Deep Cross is focusing as they first pick Renata Glass. Really risen in priority. I know there was some stumbling blocks here in the PCS trying to figure that champion out, but I think our supports here have got a handle on it. And Callista is available if they want to lock the 2v2. They've done it before, but they're going to take their time. Hana's going to get Elise in.
And we have to say that Woody has been one of the early adopters towards this Renata pick, and I don't really count Woody as an initiator, so I think a champion like Renata actually fits him quite well, where he can just play the counter engage role and get a very strong laning phase for Cascada. So far, love what we see. Hana also has been occasionally just a Lee Sin god, and it also fares very well early game versus the Viego. Not a lot you can do to conceal yourself in that mist if you are playing against someone like the Lee Sin. So I think these are very strong picks, and I feel like DCG, their emphasis is actually the exact opposite from Impunity. They want to go into the bot lane. They've always tried to basically roam Nesty early game into that bot side and get things going. So we are seeing a strong laning matchup here. Kalista, Renata, kind of a no-brainer here, but seeing the Aphelios, they might be reconsidering. Aphelios actually has
I like this. Cascada had a lot of pop-off Jinx games in spring. They're going to let that lock through. It's riskier, but it definitely can set things up. And got to be able to dodge those hooks, though, in bottom lane. I think Deep Cross will definitely be trying to protect that. On the Impunity side, of course, it's their stock standard, at least from what we saw previously. Yet another Nautilus game for Nature, and the Aphelios for LZ. Into pick ban phase 2 to go here. Let's see what the removal is going to be. Still looking at ICU's champions as well as Apex.
So you're really looking to take away blind pick split pushers, I would say, from ICU, and a couple champions you have to consider here. I think the Jace and the Gnar are probably the two go-to bans, but DCG actually going in a very different direction here and taking away Apex Azir. So Apex so far has only played Azir, and DCG are going to challenge him to play something else.
Now here's a question for you, Clement. Based on yesterday, do you feel like the ICU Jax ban is worth it?
I don't see Jax as necessarily a blind pickable champion in most scenarios. I feel like if Impunity do pick Jax, DCG are very happy to just stick a tank top lane and play something like a Sejuani. I feel like that would fit the composition. If you have a Jinx, you've got that late game damage to carry kind of covered, so you don't have to worry too much about getting damage into the top lane. DCG gonna go for a full late game composition. I really like this from DCG. I think that Kalista kind of limits what Cascada can do in the late game, so the Jinx and the Corki really sets up for a very strong late game, and as we've been talking about, 12.11 really does favor those more scaly type of compositions.
Yeah, I know. Now looking at Nesty picking up the Corki, obviously it is a very, very big champion, does scale incredibly well into the late game. I don't know if Nesty has ever played this, though. Keep in mind, Corki was completely absent in the spring split, even when every other region was playing it. So I feel like the most surprising thing is for the no-brainer. Nesty does it yet again. But you know, before I go off on a tangent, we've got the Sejuani top, and we've got a Vex lock-in for Apex. So this just got interesting.
Yeah, completely different from everything I expected. Impunity actually being the ones to play the big AD carry, while we have the sort of the standard answer to the Sejuani, just Mordekaiser, great anti-tank champion pick going up there. So looking at the rosters across the board here, I would say there's a couple of different avenues here. I actually still like DCG in the late game a little bit better. I feel like their damage potential is incredibly high, and with those Jinx rockets, they do actually get a little bit of the range advantage. They also have the 4-run potential. So for DCG, if it goes late, I feel like this is probably going to be the winning composition. On the other hand, for Impunity, for me, I'm really looking at mid-jungle. Vex should be able to win the lane versus Corki and roam a little bit faster. She is kind of semi-global as well with the Shadow Surge too. So I think that's where they're going to play through. They're going to have a really, really strong engage with the Sejuani and a great mid-game spike. While later game, I would say DCG still has this.
Yeah, I think the one thing about picking a champion like a Jinx, it is a little bit more gankable, right? There's the possibility, though. We'll have to see how it all shakes out. I think we are getting ready to get up. Here is the compositions, just in case you forgot them. We saw a couple of surprises. So, Clement, you still feel like Impunity is going to take this one? I know you called this as one of our potential upsets, but Deep Cross are going back to what served them well in the past.
I am a little bit concerned, but I feel like if Impunity can play around Drakes and Heralds and always engage correctly, then yes, they still have a very strong win condition. But just judging by the drafts, I'm actually liking the side of DCG a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I'm remembering this correctly. When Deep Cross found a lot of their success in the spring split, it did come off the back of late game team fighting. Criscata had incredible, impeccable positioning and played a lot of that Jinx we saw in that wonderful meta where there were basically 3 AD carries, maybe 2, and 2 of them are here in this game, lo and behold. But something new for me is this Corki pick for Nesty, because I just went back and looked at some of his stats. I don't think he's ever played Corki in a competitive game.
That's probably true. Like, I haven't gone through all of his data just yet, but I'm not too surprised at this champion. I think Nesty, the way he plays the game, it's very much roam focused. He hasn't really been known as a great laner. He typically likes to leave his lane early. We saw that from, most obviously his Bar play, and also from his Predator Viego play. Not Viego.
Wouldn't be surprised if he's played Viego.
Yeah. Who's the other champion with the V?
The Vigar.
Vigar. Yeah.
We did see the Vigar last split. But this is the thing for me, like it feels like a no-brain champion for him to have played given his tendencies, and yet the stats tell me he hasn't. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Nesty play Corki. Weird.
So the way I'm reading this one is that DCG does just want to play sort of a safer game here. Just make sure Impunity don't get too far ahead. You hit the late game, and this is also a composition that DCG don't have to engage with. The biggest problem for DCG is that their engages have always been a little bit questionable. Woody and Hana, in my mind, are not the best engaged type of players. They can have great mechanical plays, but when it comes to coordinating team-wide, that has not really been their strong suit. So I really like this comp for DCG. You can just sit in front of a tower, enjoy your range advantage, and wait to outplay.
Look, when you start off 0-2, you got to go back to basics, right? Go back to something that's comfortable. Even if it may look a little older meta, you still have a ways to play around it. So as the game unfolds, we want to keep our eyes, especially on that bottom side, as Deep Cross will try to be playing relatively safe. I feel like the pressure is on Impunity here to get the plays early. Alex, of course, did get spotted on the Krug camp by that early ward out. So full information for Deep Cross. I think as long as they can track this Viego, they're not in too much danger. And keep in mind, Hana's Lee Sin, you mentioned he goes God mode sometime. Elite can certainly match pressure with Viego early.
Yeah, and they're getting so much information off of this right here. We see an early shove in by Criscata and Woody, allows them for a cheetah recall. Call instantly picked up. And for me, if I'm looking at the map, on DCG's side, the most vulnerable lane is definitely going to be the top side versus against this Mordekaiser. It's very easy to just stun that person up, as we see ICU go in, take a great trade right there. And we also have to remember there is that Ignite on ICU, so a lot of damage going to be going over there. And Mordekaiser is not a champion that can actually control his wave state very well. He tends to shove involuntarily, so if it goes badly, it can create a reverse snowball. So I think DCG's most important thing for the early game, definitely keep that top lane safe.
Oh yeah. Be able to see if that happens, but I want to watch what Apex ends up doing, right? Because you talked about how this Vex can go a little bit, go into lanes a little bit faster, get things done a little bit faster. There's always potential execution. I know Assassins have had a bit of a rough go in general, just because of the durability patch. And by the way, I don't even think we mentioned it in Big Man, but for those of you wondering, we are still on patch 12.11. There will be no Belveth today, but soon enough. The Fishy has been hitting the rift in a couple different regions. I've seen it most recently in North American Academy, in fact.
Yeah, I can't wait for that champion. She's so interesting, and at the same time, it really forces you to play around early heralds like nothing else. If she gets those Remoras going, then it could get really nasty early. But coming back into this game, I feel like both teams are playing this one fairly slowly, and what we've seen is that Vex definitely can get the better side of the trades versus Corki. You really don't expect much fight potential from Nesty early on. You can also see the first strike is just there to get some extra poke money in. So the big move on the map, I think, in the early game is going to be where Vex goes with that Shadow Surge. I could see bot lane, you know, the Gravidum is still there, and LZ is going to be holding on to that one. So that could be a potential place where they could go to. Top lane's a little bit harder just because Sejuani doesn't have all that much damage just yet. So we'll see where they go, but I think bot lane would be my guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that bot lane in particular, too, we do have to highlight that this is a duo that doesn't have a whole lot of that competitive experience. LZ kind of coming in here is still a bit of an unknown. But to be fair, facing off against Kriskata was a complete unknown as well and kind of took the league by storm. And, you know, if it weren't for that pesky Shun, he might have gotten the best AD carry rookie of the split.
I definitely agree. I think that, you know, DCG right now have two of the probably the best candidates in terms of rookie of the split. Not DCG, sorry. Kriskata and ICU, I think those two were my my picks for spring. In summer, definitely have my eyes on YSKM going forward here. And just taking a look at what Impunity are doing, they do have the shove in both the bot lane and the mid lane. So they're just going to take that opportunity. We did get TPs from both of the mids right here, and jungle a little bit closer to the Drake. So first, Ocean goes over to Impunity.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I'll have to see what the rift ends up being. But yeah, big push, big gold advantage for Leaky in the top side as he's got that shoved in. But as you mentioned, it could be a risk. But jungle-wise, Hana's actually the one who's hanging around up top, and he even steals away the Gromp from Alex. We should know. I mean, this has been something Deep Cross has been doing really well, is tracking the Viego. Still only level 5 right now. Obviously, Hana bashing that too, but it does mean it's harder for him to get much going up top. It's kind of an interesting strategy, you know, deny a little bit of jungle, meaning he kind of is wasting time when he's up there. Probably doesn't want to try and make a play, even though Leaky is very far forward.
Yeah, at this point with Mordekaiser level 7, there's not really much you can do. Viego walks in, he's just going to get soloed 1v1. And to another interesting thing to point out is we do have Leaky with the Ghost here. So it's basically impossible to survive against him when he pops that Death Realm and chases you down. So I don't see there's much to do for Impunity going topside. I feel like they have to try and force a play, most likely in the bottom with the rest of their pieces.
Yeah, it's been a relatively quiet start, although we have seen this happen in a lot of regions where teams just feeling each other out for a little while. Some late first bloods, even in the LCS today. We had a game that went about 25 minutes before a first blood happened, and then all hell broke loose and it ended at 33. So, you know, that was patch 12.12, but I kind of feel like it's the same principle.
It definitely is. On the durability patch, it's so hard to make those ganks successful. Like, when the person you're ganking running away has 100 extra HP, that's almost like 2 or 3 extra auto attacks before you can take them down. So it just slows the tempo down quite a bit. I feel like on this patch, statistically, games go about 2 minutes longer than compared to Spring Split. So this is kind of to be expected. The objective fights are where the fireworks really start to get off here, and right now we do have Impunity on the objective first.
Yeah, and they have the ability to get here, and in fact they've actually brought all 5 up to it, so really not leaving anything to chance for potential steals, and there's not a huge reaction. Really good use of the timing window while everyone was back. I mean, there's no dragon to tank, so Deep Cross, they really can't do much but try and get a few wards down in jungle. I guess it's solo plays for Kriskata, but I mean, what a trade for Impunity.
Yeah, I think DCG played this one fairly well, too. They know that Impunity's strongest point is their engage potential in the mid game, so they completely deny that by, you know, just not walking forward towards the confrontation. They're happy to take their turret plates in the bottom side, and in the meantime, I also think Impunity did a smart move here. ICU with that Sejuani is just, there's just not much you can do in lane against a Mordekaiser, so they're gonna do a preemptive swap.
Yeah, this is good. They've also got Alex up here too, which means they're he's in danger of a dive. They actually pop the Rift Herald. Leaky knows that he's got friends on the way. He actually walks it back for a second. It's a 3v3, 4 if you count Shelly. Charge is going to go through. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, denied! The Hana smite. Wow. And all of a sudden, that advantage completely neutralized.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge for DCG. Comparatively, that means that when it comes to the next objective fight, you're going to see Kriskata with that mythic item a lot sooner than LZ. So that could be a huge break point when it does come to it. In the meantime, though, we also have to point out that the flash was used there by the Aphelios, so potential for the repeat game coming in.
Yeah, there's always a possibility. So, while Impunity set up a good play, it's sniffed out by Deep Cross very quickly and stuffed. Taking a look at how the gold game is going as well. It is 1,000 gold in the lead for Deep Cross. Of course, not accounting the Dragon difference. A lot of that's going to be in plates at the moment, and Leaky should be able to add another one to his total. As ICU, one level down, looks to chase him off tower. Ooh, point blank. Manages to get that stun off for just a second, but Leaky still dealing a lot of damage as the swap goes back down to bot. Frescata has a level advantage over his opposite number.
Yep, level 7 already, and we have to remember it's not only the extra 2 plates, it's also the cull being thrown in here, so Frescata gonna have a very strong Drake fight window coming in with the extra Mythic, I believe. The next fight already coming up very, very soon with the Hextech, and, you know, I think top lane, this is not a fight where you can expect Mordekai's just trying to win early on. Ooh.
Oh boy. Flash kick immediately into the Renata ultimate, and it just looked easy. Although they paid for it in some health bars. Nature, Alex, Apex all running away. As Nesty's even being right up here. Leaky, he's burning down. He's got a shield on, so he should survive through.
Yeah,
Deep Cross Gaming, they get the first blood. Let's see if they can get some more here as Apex goes in. They hook him, bailout onto Frescata. He just needs the reset, and he will get it. Apex on the wrong side of the team, and Deep Cross Gaming looking like the team fighters that we knew them to be from spring.
Wow, what a risky play from Impunity right there. They actually went in 3v4, trying to get the snipe off, but Woody cancels all of that, and DCG walks away with a very strong win into the bottom side there. I think that was a little bit of a fumble by Impunity. They actually had to shove, but they didn't move LZ along with the rest of the team. He got picked off quite early on, and they then doubled up their efforts trying to play a 3v4 and just lost the trade here. So we'll watch this again. Very clean play by Hana. Instant flash into the finish off here. I think Impunity were thinking that, okay, Woody's low HP, Frescata's low HP, maybe we can chance a play, but we have to remember it's a 3v4 and the bailout is still there. It wasn't off cooldown, so they're not able to find the snipe. Good hook by Nature, but it doesn't come to anything.
Yeah, also, this is what happens when you don't respect the package. Nesty's actually having a great game right now. This Corki coming up huge for him early on as he's picked up a couple of kills. And look at the damage he's putting out that last fight, starting to inch along. And I feel like a lot of that kind of stemmed from the fact that LZ didn't have a flash.
Yeah, I got picked off on that one. I think that Impunity just way forced their hand on the secondary engage. I'm not sure why that was really necessary. If you looked at the damage chart, Alex managed to get 0 damage off. He just could not join the fight from the left angle.
Bad.
So I think you can tell what the strengths of Impunity there were. Like, it's very difficult to deny an engage coming in from the Vex and the Sejuani at the same time. Like, if they're able to sync those two champions up and go for the second Herald, I think they could definitely aim for a very strong second team fight.
Absolutely. I think at the same time, though, you know, one of the things I know we were talking about in our preparation today, one of the things about Deep Cross and why we were thinking that this might be a potential upset for Impunity is that their team fighting just hasn't looked that good. But this game, with this competition, it seems a lot better so far. Admittedly, a little bit was gifted to them, so there's plenty of game left to see. But it's undeniable they have a solid lead, and they seem to be on the same page.
And they also have the scaling on their side as well. So
that's true.
I feel like it's completely up to Impunity to really force the issue and find some of these ganks. They also need to think about what they want to do with this top lane. The top lane, unfortunately, ICU did need to blind pick something, and Mordekaiser is a really nice answer. There's just, once you get to a certain point, especially with the Riftmaker and the Omnivamp, you just can't kill Mordekaiser anymore alone in this lane. So the way Impunity have to play this is they need to find those opportunities to get Sejuani out of lane every opportunity they get and just kind of instantly force teamfights over and over again.
It's not going to be easy, though. See if they can make the play happen. LZ rotates into the mid lane now. It's going to be Impunity once again on Rift Herald number 2. And there's no Dragon on the opposite side, so Impunity continued to read the objective sides of the map well. Question is, can they get more value out of this Shelly than they did the last one?
If it's just a straight trade away, then I feel like DCG actually comes out ahead. Really clear-headed play coming in from Deep Cross. They know Impunity's strength. They're not going to contest. It's totally fine if you get that. Frescata already had a gold lead, and he's going to acquire even more gold.
And they've even got friends here if ICU wants to stick around. Shred's the minion wave, so he's not able to do any more. But that's the other thing about a Jinx. It's a little easy to forget in this new day and age of very much versatile bot lane picks that not too long ago, in the olden days of the spring splits, it was Jinx Aphelios all day, every day. And Jinx does a lot of damage to towers.
Yeah, in that matchup, we typically say that Aphelios does have the better sort of utility coming into the fight. The Gravitum is really irreplaceable in big teamfight moments and catching people out. But on the flip side, Jinx does get that range rocket advantage later into the game, and she also just does a lot more damage with the auto attacks, especially with the Runon's build coming in. So at this point, Impunity haven't really made use of their mid-game spike, and DCG just doing a great job at avoiding all 5v5 confrontations.
3,500 gold in favor of DCG, and yeah, as you said, they don't really have to do much because they've got the scaling, they got the time on their side. Everything seems to be working out well. Top lane, solid 30 CS lead no matter who they throw at him. Down bot, lots of gold stacking for Frescata, 2 kills for Nesty, who's had a solid performance to kick things off. And he's got a package on top of it, so now Deep Cross is going to rotate to mid and siege.
Yeah, this is going to be very difficult to kind of fight out, because the way I see these fights happening is all DCG really need to do is use Death Realm onto the Aphelios, and most of the damage is gone.
Yeah, look in the flank here. The package vault cuts off Alex. They can't really get much of an angle after the fact, though, and ooh, flashing out of the Sejuani ultimate is Nesty. So that's ult for Flash burned, and the reset's back on. Leaky and Hana looking for an inside track here on ICU, just finds the Obliterate, but Dragon's going to be up here. Deep Cross have the position to take it. They have a lot of damage. Straight up 5v5 is going to be much easier said than done, especially without a couple key ultimates. We've still not seen much from Apex in this game. We really need that value Shadow Surge, but Impunity are going to try and call the bluff here and pop Shelly into mid.
DCG taking this super common collected. They know that Impunity are missing ultimate, so they don't really have that much combat threat. They're going to take both objectives, essentially. Defend the mid lane while having 2 people just take the Drake. Impunity, for me, I feel like they went a little bit too early on the Sejuani ultimate. I feel like they could have had a much better shot waiting for DCG to actually group up in the Drake pit before they pulled the trigger right there. They went in early, and to Nesty's credit, that was a super valuable flash. You're not going to use it in the team fight anyway, so you just might as well make sure you don't get caught.
Yeah, no, it works out. You don't want to give the gold bounty over either, so keeping Impunity denied works out well. They get another dragon stacked up. I don't know if Soul's really going to be that big a deal for them this game. They're not going to let Impunity have any more either. Nesty up to the top, going to clear the wave away. And there's not much Impunity can do here. They'd like to finish off mid-tower, open the map up a bit more, but Deep Cross are reading them like a book.
Yeah, they definitely are. And, you know, typically in this situation, what you would try to do as Impunity would be to catch out Mordekaiser. He's the one that's pushing the lane. You don't have an answer against him in any of your soul lanes. But the problem is, because of the Death Row, Mordekaiser is almost guaranteed to trade 1v1, whatever you throw at him. So it's a very awkward position for Impunity. I feel like they can't really play into the pushing lane of the Mordekaiser, and they have to focus on the rest of the team. Which means that, you know, you have to have such a good catch early on, and then go in.
Instantly turning in onto Woody, and they will be able to blow him up, but not before he gets himself a bailout after the hostile takeover. They make him pay for this one, and Leaky coming through with a lot of damage. Dish, Corky rockets flying from the back. Hana Frescata staying safe for now, but here comes the Lee Sin from downtown. Off the backside, it was Alex that even was able to do more on the opposite side. The double kill comes through for LZ, and he's now running for the hills. That was an interesting trade across the way, but unfortunately, it's not gone Impunity's way. Over the top, LZ going to try to get the outplay 1v1 here. Finds a lot of the chakrams, but I think his luck's run out here as Leaky's going to bop him back down. The Gatling gun helps.
What a great pick this Mordekaiser has been. Essentially zoning away the entire team as he just 1v1s the AD carry. So Impunity had the right idea here. I think what they miscalculated was how fast Leaky would be able to rotate to the scene. Also a great bailout from Woody on himself to kind of drag this one out. If you watch Leaky here, he's taking ICU into the Death Realm, and it's so hard for LZ to follow up damage because he knows that Mordekaiser is going to pop out in an instant. If you see what LZ did there, he tried to follow up with the Vex and instantly had to flash away because the Mordekaiser just shows up right behind him with that massive mace.
Yeah, we saw the Shadow Surge. If it had deleted Hana, it might have had a little more value in that one. But yeah, Leaky just kind of comes in for the second wind effort. A lot of flashes burned there, but still just Deep Cross, you know, not only better fighting, but this is still kind of, we're starting to get into the later stages of the game, and that's the scaling side. So Deep Cross are going to own this map here, and Impunity, clock's ticking. I think the window is running out.
I have to concur with you. Nesty already with the Mirror Mana and 2 items. He's going to start hitting like a truck right here. And Leaky's way too fed at this point. Just look at this guy. Like he has the he has a stopwatch ready. He's going for the demonic embrace. And I don't see where the sustained damage is going to come from to take down this big Mordekaiser.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? Is you've got a Vex and you've got a Viego. You have a little bit of burst potential. You're going to rely a lot on LZ. Remember, this is the player without a whole lot of competitive experience. I do feel like this draft was going to be a little bit difficult for Impunity to pull off, right? You know, like, you needed a blind pick topside. I like ICU on playmakers. I don't think, like, this loss is necessarily on him. But the Sejuani has not really been able to do much. You're kind of an old bot at this point.
Yeah, I feel like Impunity just weren't able to get early Drake stack, and DCG just didn't give them any chances on the Herald. Sure, Impunity managed to take both of those Heralds, but if you think about the actual effect of the Heralds, they weren't all that impactful. The first one didn't do anything. Hana just smited that one away, and the second one, you know, they dropped it down in mid lane, but once again, DCG were able to take a Drake away from them for that Herald. So in terms of the trades, the Heralds weren't really that impactful, and Impunity just aren't able to force a fight. If I'm looking at this, I have to say that their window is quickly closing. I feel like their only chance is to wait for DCG to group up and maybe get a miracle 5-man Shadow Surge, 5-man Glacial Flail.
Yeah, you know, and this is the Deep Cross I think we were hoping to see, not the ones we saw in the first couple of days of play. Like, it felt like yesterday and the day before, they were kind of lost, not really knowing how to team fight, not really knowing what they wanted to do. Not necessarily, like, not on the same page, but just not really having a plan. And Deep Cross are a team that seem to function best when they have a game plan. They clearly did this time around. Something has happened between day 2 and 3 where they've come back and said, all right, we need a comp that we can execute pretty easily, get to the late game, and we win. You know, it's a simple plan, but they work. And so far, everything is all according to Keikaku, which you should note, Keikaku means plan.
Oh, okay. I actually did not know that. But thank you very much for clarifying on that one.
It's not the most obscure anime reference I can make, but it's
ICU?
up there. Oh, okay. Yoinked by the handshake. ICU denied after he throws out the Glacial Prison. Nesty doing a lot of damage with that Corki. This is one of the reasons we're seeing this champion everywhere right now. Nesty's having a blast.
Yeah, after that, DCG can pretty much just continue to split push. Leaky is so huge on this top side. No one can fight him 1v1, and they don't have an engaged tool in the bottom. So I feel like DCG just continue to play 4-1 and start chipping away these towers. There's really no way Impunity can punish.
Yeah, they're going to have to force a desperate fight at this point. You can see them setting up around the side. Keep your eyes on the flashes, people like Nature. Okay, they try to get the hook over. Denied a little bit. Leaky just zoning away. Chris Scotta going to even step up and find some rocket damage onto the tower. Oh boy. Time running out for this Impunity squad. 1-1, good start for this team with new roster, but unfortunately it seems like they got read a little too well by the Deep Cross side this game.
I will say that I feel like in today's meta, you have to have a matching scaling component, whatever composition you pick. You really can't let compositions outscale you in multiple lanes. Like, basically all lanes, Impunity, we're going to get outscaled in. And the reason for that is it's just too hard to force tempo in the current meta. Like, face checks You know, everyone has about 300 extra HP. It's very difficult to just snipe someone off in that situation, and I feel like Impunity, their composition was just a little bit too forced, and unfortunately ICU's Glacial Prisons, I think they've been very underwhelming. I just don't think the team has been in the position to follow up with any of these.
No, and even when they, you know, they've been very optimistic as well, right? Like, it's not the longest range ultimate. I mean, I think Sejuani is a champion that works really, really well when you can get right up in the faces of people, but Deep Cross are really respecting the distance despite how far ahead they are. I mean, this is an 11,000 gold lead at 25 minutes, but they are still playing very respectful of the all-in, and that's why Impunity have been held to a measly 2 kills this game.
Yeah, we have seen ICU just throw out the Glacial Prison, but the last 3 ones have not even landed him any stuns. So, no, I feel like DCG's been able to kind of get away with murder, and I feel like this is DCG's most comfortable position, where they have range advantage, they have scaling advantage, and they don't have to coordinate all that much in terms of engaging. They can just sit in front of your tower, wail at you the entire way, and look at how safe this composition is. You know, Kriskada's not trying to push damage, he's actually trying to push chip damage. So he's going with the rapid fire instead of the Runans. That does give you a lot more damage when it comes to the rocket launcher form. And on the meantime, you can also see this from Nessie. He's playing this super safe, going for the GA 3rd item. I don't even really think that's necessary, but he's just making sure that Impunity have no chance whatsoever of winning a team fight against such a safe setup.
Yeah, speaking of safety too, the other thing about that rapid fire is you get that extra range on Energize too. Man, and you know, Kriskada's like, he's 0-1 and 6. Like, oh, okay, I'll talk about that in a minute, because Hana does get caught by the gank squad. Impunity, they know their window is running out, so they're going to hard force here. However, Nesty is able to flash away to safety. There's no Baron. That's the unfortunate thing. You'd love to turn that into a Baron, but it's still a minute away, and now Leaky's knocking on your front door.
Yep, the flash is gone here from Hana, but all in all, that's not too much of an issue. Leaky should still be happy to stay here. Yeah, he knows that there's no way that any 2-player combination can really take him down.
And they kill him. Yeah, Leaky, he's just walking away, and he's got friends. It's cool. League of Legends, it's a team game.
If you look at the build coming in from LZ as well, he's not packing a lot of damage. He knows that he needs sustain against the Corki and against the Jinx for Ras, just because they have range. So he needs to go into the Bloodthirster 2nd build, which just means he's not going to have that much of you know, the extra crit damage to push through this Mordekaiser. Leaky, the world is his oyster. There's nothing that they can do to him.
Oh wait, well, hold on. Leaky's on Deep Cross, Clement. He's not on Flying Oyster.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant LZ's build. The Aphelios build is, you know, not the max damage build that you could push right here, and Mordekaiser is just gonna have a field day.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're anyone on Deep Cross right now, you have to be feeling pretty good about your performance. Like, the mistakes have been very minimal this game. They played well as a unit. I was talking about Kriskada's score. I'm like, objectively as a Jinx player, not getting kills is a feels bad man, but he doesn't need them because his team's doing it, and they're just pushing his 5. Like, he's still gonna have the potential to open up another dragon. That's Soul just taken solo. How often do you see that?
Not very often indeed, and Impunity, you know, they're not even positioned to even engage, even when they have the 5v4.
Leaky was feared, and he still walked forward. I feel like that's a metaphor for this game.
Yeah, if we look across the board here, the Ignites are also down, so there's not any way for them to deny the Conqueror or the Riftmaker healing.
I think there might be a special delivery in the future, and it's going to be a loss for Impunity if this fight goes the way it's looking. Down goes Nature immediately as Nesty valks forward looking for LZ. Apex buys half a second of time, but he's going to fall down. LZ, the last man standing, and, well, Alex, excuse me, still up on this one as he uses the Heartbreaker to move away, but I think more real Heartbreaker is the fact that his base is in shambles.
He's got nowhere to go with Leaky still having the death roll. He just needs to close the distance right now. There we go.
All else fails. Hit him with the emotes. That's how it works. Leaky just not letting the man back, and down he goes, just like the Nexus turrets and just like the Nexus. It only took 30 minutes here for Deep Cross Gaming to close it out to find their first win of the summer split.
Well done to DCG, finally showing up here and making sure everyone knows that they still had that 4th place pedigree coming in from spring. To be perfectly honest, I felt like this game was kind of won from draft. DCG had so many outscaling components coming into their composition. I felt like the Corki, the Jinx, and the Mordekaiser, all 3 of them essentially outscaled, and their win condition was crystal clear. You just avoid any confrontation. You make sure you don't give a massive wombo combo to Impunity in the mid game, and you're absolutely fine. This is a really smart and patient game plan that they drew up for themselves.
Absolutely. I think you can't take anything away from Deep Cross, and when they are at their best is when they have a game plan and they play it to a T. Curveballs tend to throw them off a little bit, but Impunity were unable to do that. They tried to force some plays in the bottom side. They tried to force some plays elsewhere on the map. It just didn't work out, and though they fall to 1 and 2, I think there's still a lot to like about this Impunity roster. They definitely seem to have upgrades in most of their roles, but maybe the drafting can improve a little bit. There is plenty of time in the summer split, though, Clement.
Yeah, well, we're going to take a look at the last team fight, and what I love about this one is it really shows you why Nesty went for that Guardian's Angel. He's not really afraid about the damage factor. He's going to out-damage. He's just trying to kamikaze into the enemy team and force a hard engage at this point.
Yeah, and look, LZ is trying his darndest to salvage the game, but you talked about how he didn't have the most damage. He has, the sustain-oriented build, and obviously, that's not necessarily the reason that they lost the game, but it's a desperate situation you don't want to be forced into, and Impunity, it does feel like they set themselves behind in the draft and just never were able to catch back up. So congratulations to Deep Cross. Getting a win here feels good. They had a rough start. Admittedly, it was up against the likes of J-Team and PSG Talon. Impunity maybe a little bit softer, and they managed to find the victory. A great draft, a great win. You can take a look at how it all went down below the screen too. I love Renata in the bot lane now that everybody knows how to play it. But the Jinx was definitely a bit of a surprise for me, Clement. I know it wasn't pivotal to the win, but it always has the explosive potential.
Yeah, and I feel like DCG have found their way into the meta. As we said even before the draft, what I wanted to see was Kriskata as the hyper carry, and everyone else, they can play slow, just play around him and play a 5v5 game. I think you will be fine, especially when you don't have to rely too much on your engages. That has been the kryptonite of DCG in the past. This composition doesn't have any of those issues just because they outrange every other comp, so completely fine. Yeah. And on Impunity side, I was a little bit surprised that they went for the blind pick Sejuani, knowing that Leaky had that Mordekaiser coming in from Spring. So I felt like they just kind of forgot about the champion pools that existed here. The Twisted Fate was a really weird ban for me. I don't think TF is necessarily that strong in the meta. It doesn't scale well whatsoever, and you're slacking damage too heavily. I felt like, they just kind of messed up the later half of that draft, and if I'm thinking about what happened in the game, I felt like they overcommitted to Herald a little bit too much. They could have tried to play for the bot lane as well, because the bot lane was going to be pushed up with Woody and Jinx. So I think they needed to do a little bit more in laning phase with the Vex rather than all in onto the Herald.
I agree. I think that is a very gankable bottom lane. Keep in mind, like the cooldowns on Round of Glass are pretty high in the early game. Like, sure, you want to be careful not to get face first into a handshake, but Jinx has no inherent escapes. You have a lot of sticking power between the Nautilus and the Vex, and even the Viego. I feel like they could have done a lot more, and they brought 5 people to that first Herald and then got nothing out of it because of Hana's fast fingers on the smite. That's a little bit rough, and I think Impunity missed out, and Leaky had a heck of a game for himself. Just got to be a Mordekaiser and terrorize everyone on the Rift. 33.5% of the team's damage. Holy moly.
And we have to remember, this is the patch of battle mages. You have the extra survivability to just close in on your target, and once you get that Death Realm down, there's not a lot that 80 carries can do against you. It's also very strong against a lot of these tank lanes. We have been seeing Mordekaiser come slowly back into the meta right here, and that's always been one of Leaky's strong suits. He plays a lot of different champions. He's been very, very creative, and I believe Mordekaiser, you did play in Spring here as well, so just really nice drafting edge going over to Leaky and securing that win.
Yeah, I really love the counter pickup. I really love the game plan that Deep Cross brought out, and they really, really killed it this time around. Impunity are going to have to go back to the drawing board for themselves, but for us, of course, we got plenty more games to play after this one, Clement. I'm looking forward to a few of them. Anything in particular on your mind as we're getting ready to go to break? I wanted to get your thoughts, so I know you had some upsets in mind. Has this changed your mind at all, Adam?
I'm still looking forward to Frank versus CFO, and I'm still keeping my hopes high for an upset finally to happen sometime today. Please, please.
Now, but the J-Team Cinematic Universe has been looking a little better. We'll see how the day goes on. We got a break. We'll be right back with more games. Don't go anywhere.